Hello and welcome to another episode of the Afterburners podcast. I am Sam Niedermeyer. With me, as always, a co-host, Mr. Bobby Koch. And Bobby, it is the last episode in which you will no longer be, I guess, a single man. I mean, you've been taken for a while, but you'll definitely be a married man.
Yeah, legally, I'm still classified as a single man. So after this episode, I will not be a single man. I'll be married. And I guess more importantly, my finger will no longer be a nudist. My finger will finally put some clothes on.
Yeah, that's true. You got to make sure that you don't offend anybody with a naked finger, especially those kids that with tourists when they're walking around the city. Like that.
Yeah, they look at my finger and they're scandalized.
So we got Mile with us today. We're supposed to have a guest, but we have Mile with us today as usual. Mr. Mike Jarvis, how are you doing today, Mike?
Not bad. Yourself, guys? It's a warm day in Canada. Life is good.
Yeah, no snow, huh?
No snow. It's actually been probably like mid-70s the last 2 days, so I'm able to get out, do some yard work, do some barbecuing. Life is good.
Here's a question, though. Are you going to eat any soup?
I'm with you in the fact that I really only eat soup either A, when I'm sick, or B, if it's like between the months of November and probably February, March.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. Dead of winter, you're sick. Otherwise, don't eat soup. Especially don't eat soup in spring or summer.
Can you put some context behind why you asked that question?
Earlier today, I was talking to Justin Bales, and he was telling me that he had soup for lunch. And I know he lives in Pennsylvania, so it's pretty much the same weather we have here. And I'm wearing shorts today. And if you can wear shorts, you shouldn't be eating soup. That's my take.
You guys, this is just the kind of mentality that Big Soup wants you to think, that you have to eat soup year round. But you know what? You don't have to eat soup year round. Free the soup. Free your mind about soup and soup absorption. I like where your head's at.
Yeah, no soup in the summer.
Real quick shout out. We are drinking some of this Four Roses bourbon. This was a gift to you, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is a gift from the Superflex guys. I'm probably going to botch their last names, but that's Travis Rasmussen, John Hogue, and James Catullus, who was a guest of ours about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, big Cleveland fan. We had the Cleveland only show. So, guys, thanks so much. This is delicious. Bobby's really appreciative. That was a really cool thing you guys did. Let's talk some football. You guys want to talk some football?
Always ready to talk football.
Excellent, outstanding. We got a great show for you today. We're going to dive deep into the running back class of 2018. We're going to go into several running backs that are joining the National Football League and how that will affect their starting quarterbacks. So it's going to be a very, very specific show on just that topic. Before we get started, Mr. Mike Jarvis, go ahead and dish out that. You're going to dish out some Instagram info, I'm sure, but dish out the Twitter info. Where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Mike Jarvis. It's all one word. You can hook me up on the Insta at Mike Jarvis YNWA. If I could remember my MySpace to throw away back, I'd throw out my MySpace, but I can't remember it right now.
Probably
maybe next week. Right? What's that, Sam?
MySpace is probably just your name.
Probably, I don't remember. So maybe that'll be next week.
In the off chance that 55-year-old people are listening to our podcast and on MySpace, that's where you can find Mike Jarvis at Mike Jarvis. There we go. Bob, you're next up, buddy.
You can find me at Rekt Fantasy. That's REKED Fantasy. You can find my work on DLF football as well as 2QBs. I'm also a draft day consultant. And just for this episode only, if you want to see wedding pictures and you're listening to the Afterburners podcast in like a week or so, I'll probably have pictures up. You can find me on Instagram at Rob Koch. That's Rob with 2 B's and Koch like my last name. This is the only episode I will drop my Instagram handle on.
I'm very shocked you gave out the IG.
Yeah, that's it.
Very shocked. Guys, I am at the Needy One. This is at Afterburners Pod. You can find us at Afterburners Pod on Twitter. Obviously, we are the Afterburners Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean. Make sure to subscribe, download, and review so that we can get those nice 5-star ratings. Actually, I don't even care. Give us 1-star ratings, whatever you want to do, and subscribe to you get the new episodes directly delivered to your earbuds.
Sorry, real quick. My fiance is listening, and she wanted me to make sure that everybody knows that if you want to find the wedding pictures on Instagram, you can use the hashtag ByeByeBly, like the NSYNC song, except it's ByeBye BLEI, ByeByeBly.
I love that hashtag.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I'm going to punish the hell out of that hashtag this weekend.
Good.
And I'm going to be all over Instagram. And I'm going to tag Mike in them.
Good.
There we go.
Just for you, buddy. All right, guys. We're going to talk some rookie quarterbacks. I'm sorry, rookie running backs are going to be helping some veteran quarterbacks, or what we think are going to be helping some veteran quarterbacks. I think the very first one we want to talk about was the first overall pick, and Bobby's super excited to fire off this topic.
Second overall pick.
Oh, that's right. Second. I forgot
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. Already first mistake of the episode. Let's see how many more I can get. Saquon Barkley to the Giants.
Yep.
We already know how you feel about it. Is this going to help out Eli? What are we doing here with him?
Yeah, it will definitely help Eli. I like Saquon. I just didn't like the pick of Saquon at 2, but it'll help Eli because defenders will have to pay attention to the run game now, which means that it'll open up more passing lanes for other guys like Odell, Ingram, and Shepard. And Saquon's a good pass catcher, so from a fantasy perspective, it can only help Eli Manning. And Eli Manning's generally been at very minimum a QB2, if not occasional QB1 seasons. So he might have a season or 2 left of fantasy relevance, as much as I didn't necessarily want him to.
So you went with there'll be a better rushing team, so that'll open up some more passing lanes for him, everything like that. Mike,
and also Barkley can catch passes.
Yeah, he's a good pass catcher. He really is. Mike, are you on board with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Bobby took basically everything that I was going to say. I think the real big thing is that, defenses are going to have to really respect the run, which is something that they haven't had to do for the Giants in, the last probably 4 years. And so, it will help Shepard, Ingram, and Odell get open. Not that Odell really needs any help. I think he's pretty much a ridiculous talent as it is. And Barkley can catch the passes out of the backfield. If Eli is getting pressured, which he might, the Giants' O-line is, you can look for that little dump off to Saquon and can maybe scamper 10, 15 yards and give Eli half a point or so. So, yeah, it's a big positive for Eli for sure.
This is really like the best, theoretically. Now, granted, Saquon has to play he has to play it down before we start doing this, but theoretically, their best passing and running, their best player out of the running back position since Tiki, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, we do have to see him actually play in the NFL, but presumably based on the things all the scouts are saying, as well as everything else, this is going to really revitalize their run game and is the best one since Tiki Barber. And I'm excited for it. Now that I've had some time, I have to get on board with what the Giants are doing, and I'm excited for Saquon and seeing what this offense can do.
So I'm actually going to go hater on this one. I don't think it's going to affect one way whatsoever, because if you think about it, now granted they had no running game last year. The offensive line's like whatever, but Eli still has all of those weapons, and he had them last year, and he still didn't make amazing fantasy numbers. He finished.
Odell was hurt for basically the entirety of the season.
Exactly. And it was Ingram's first year. So you got to learn that offense.
There's only one ball. I mean, like at all times.
Right, but there's only one ball, but the quarterback has to be the one to throw it. So it may not help everyone else on the team. Everyone else on the team may have to share targets more, but it'll help Eli Manning.
I forgot that was hurt. That really puts a damper on my argument, doesn't it?
Yeah. He basically missed
I don't know if it's going to be like all of a sudden, like Eli with a running game, he becomes this amazing QB1. I just don't know.
I'm not saying he's a QB1. I just think that he at least has another QB2 season in him.
I agree. A solid QB2. Like, I'm talking QB16-ish.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'd maybe even say like borderline 1, like maybe 14, 15. If he finishes in the top 12, I'll be somewhat surprised, but I won't be shocked. But I don't think he's finishing as a top 12 quarterback this season.
I'm gonna say he'll be a QB2. I'll say low end.
So like
22nd.
All right.
22nd. Real quick, we're still seeing these crazy like overvalues of Saquon Barkley. I'm on this tweet right now. It's at Brandon R. Bush, and he's talking about, he puts out a poll, like what's obviously asking what's the better side. It's Kareem Hunt and the 10th pick in the first round versus essentially the first pick, with the 101, which we all know is Saquon. I mean, 61% Saquon side be Kareem Hunt.
I'm going to get a lot of Twitter hate for this, but I would take Kareem Hunt straight up over Saquon Barkley right now.
100% you would, because he's done it.
Yeah, not many people agree with that, but I would. And I'm also a big Kareem Hunt guy, so.
Saquon or Kareem, Mike, what do you think?
That's a really tough one. The fact that we haven't seen Saquon play it down in the NFL yet, I will give the edge to Kareem. I think by the end of the year, my tune might be changed quite a bit. But as of right now, I would say Kareem.
Yeah, that's fair. I think a lot of people's views could potentially be changed after the season, at which point it'd be probably too late to acquire Saquon anyway.
Oh, for sure.
Outstanding. Good stuff on Barkley, guys. Another guy who's drafted this year, Nick Chubb from the University of Georgia. He's joining the stacked backfield of the Cleveland Browns. Well, not necessarily stacked, but definitely
it's pretty stacked. It depends how you feel about Carlos Hyde. I like Carlos Hyde.
So we got Tyrod Taylor presumably starting at quarterback. Also Baker Mayfield, who actually was the first pick. Thank you to the correction of Mr. Bobby Koch here. What are we doing with Tyrod Mayfield? Are they what's going on with them in terms of Chubb helping out that backfield?
Mike, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think it's going to help them all that much, to be honest. The backfield for me is way too crowded. You've got Chubb. You've got Duke Johnson. You've got Hyde. It's a three-headed monster that needs to play itself out somehow. There's too many mouths to feed when you're trying to rotate three backs, and so I don't think that the addition of Chubb or Hyde or Duke will necessarily help Pfizer, as we like to call him, or Baker. I think Duke, out of all of them, will probably have the most upside, to helping the quarterback. I was looking at Chubb's numbers from last year. He didn't put up great receiving numbers, 4 receptions for 30 yards, no TDs. The year before, 5 receptions for 86 yards.
Yeah, he's not really a passing catcher.
Yeah,
no,
that was
at all.
In college.
I mean, he's a great runner, but I think the fact that Cleveland invested such an early pick, they're still looking for Baker or Pfizer to air it out, and so I don't. Pardon?
My man Pfizer.
Your man Pfizer. I don't see this having a big impact for either quarterback, whoever starts the Browns.
So I'll go a little bit opposite of that. Not exactly, but I kind of with Mike where I don't know if it helps whoever's starting this year, but next year I expect Chubb to be more or less in sole possession of the backfield, maybe with Duke still there, although I think Duke is a free agent. And as I said before, having a good runner can open up passing lanes. And the other thing is, like, having a good runner can get you closer to the end zone, just because even if they're not necessarily receiving passes, they're usually getting yards if they're at least a good runner. So I like the help for Chubb, and I kind of see it in a way that it could help Baker when he first takes over, or even next season when he takes over. And I'm looking at Chubb more as a long-term play for fantasy than someone I'm expecting to contribute high numbers right away.
I love Chubb. I love him. I love him coming out of Georgia. Granted, I'm an SEC biased guy because I went into a school.
If he didn't have the knee injury, he would be in conversations right there at Barkley.
Look, his freshman year was unbelievable. That was 4 years ago.
He also has a great hashtag for people who are Rick and Morty fans. Gabe Gearing, FF Man Bun, did a hashtag called Wubba Lubba Chub Chub instead of Wubba Lubba Dub Dub. So if you like Rick and Morty, then you should like Nick Chubb.
I love Chubb. I mean, I think he was great. Now, when there was actually some difference, because when he was his freshman year, before the injury, he put up a ton of yards, scored a ton of touchdowns. He actually caught some balls out of the backfield too.
Yep.
Then he got injured. You could see that he kind of lost some of the maneuverability. Gained his strength back up, and just pounded the crap out of teams this year.
He also dominated the combine.
Yeah, he was a combine great. The fact that the Browns got him as low as they did, I was really surprised. I think Nick Chubb, outside of Saquon Barkley, I should say, I had Nick Chubb as the overall number 1 running, I guess number 2 running back. I think he's great. I think this is a great move for Cleveland. I think you're right, though, Bobby. I tend to agree. There's a lot more value long term with him than there is like for this year. So
it helps Baker Mayfield's value long term.
Absolutely. If you told me that Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb would be in the same backfield in the NFL after watching this year, I'd be like, that's insane. But they are. Yeah. I think that really helps them out long term. Last words, Mike.
Yeah, it might. I'm a little skeptical. I just think that Hugh has the ability to kill anything that comes to Cleveland. So I want to see it before I get on board. Let's put it that way.
Mike, have you heard
the Cleveland death is a real thing?
Have you heard the reports though that Hugh basically is just a figurehead where he doesn't have control of the offense because that's Todd Haley
Nagy. Or Haley, yeah.
And he doesn't control the defense. So it's like, Hugh, what are you even doing there? Like, really, what are your responsibilities?
If Hugh Jackson was a character in the movie Anchorman, he's definitely Brick Tamland.
Or if he was in the Office Space, they'd say, so what is it that you do here?
I'm a people person.
I saw that meme. I can't remember who posted it, but they posted it in relation to Hugh Jackson, and they nailed it, so I can't take credit for that.
Or if he's
Hugh Jackson would just come up and say, PC load letter. The fuck does that mean?
Or if he's in the office, he's Kevin. Actually, not even Kevin, because Kevin's lovable. He's probably like, who's dispensing? Gabe. That's who he's Gabe. Or Meredith. Yeah. Also, Meredith had her good moments. Hugh, I think, is
Gabe. Gabe was actually pretty funny.
Gabe's funny, but he didn't really have like any relevance to what they did in terms of like their jobs.
So Hugh's going to start trying to bang the receptionist at the Cleveland Browns facility, and then he'll get transferred down to Florida. That's about right, right?
Well, no, I'd say actually Gabe did have relevance because he was supposed to be this big corporate figure that people were supposed to pay attention to and, get direction from. Well, that's what the fuck he's doing in Cleveland. But nobody's paying attention to him, and nobody's getting direction.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair comparison.
Jackson is Gabe from The Office.
Okay,
you heard it here first.
Gabe. Let's go on to the next running back. We got Darius Geis. He was drafted by the Redskins, I believe.
Yes.
So it'll be him and Alex Smith in that backfield. So you guys know how much I hate the Redskins and Alex Smith. Interested to hear your take here on how Darius Geis can propel Alex Smith past the end of QB2 that I think he's going to be.
So Darius Geis, I know everyone's saying, oh, he fell. He still was within the second round, which I think a lot of people are forgetting. They're acting as if he was drafted as a sixth-round running back.
Round, yeah.
I know, it was something like, 7 running backs went before him, and that's concerning, but I still like him, and Washington's a great landing spot for him. His only real competition there was Chris Thompson, and Chris Thompson's just going to be relegated to passing downs. So, I don't know if he necessarily helps Alex Smith directly, except that, again, as we said earlier, having a good run game can help a quarterback. But I do know that I like Zach Reed at Tacit Assassin 13's parody song of Geis, which is Geis, Geis, Baby. So that's really all I have to say is just listen to Geis, Geis, Baby. Mike, what do you think?
Geis, Geis, Baby.
That's definitely in my head now. But, yeah, I'm all in on Darius Geis and what he's going to do for the Skins. Their backfield was basically a mess last year. Chris Thompson was a revelation for them. And, you got Geis, this guy who's coming in, who just fucking dominated the SEC as a junior last year. 11 TDs on the ground, almost 1,300 yards, 18 grabs, a couple scores in the air. Chris Thompson is definitely going to be the pass-catching back, but Geis, he's going to open up a world of possibilities for Alex Smith. Alex Smith is nothing but a fucking game manager, and he sucks at that.
Wow. That's strong words after his season last year. He was very good last season.
Yeah, but he wasn't on the Redskins.
Exactly.
I like him with Crowder and
Thompson.
Yeah, Thompson and some other
You like him with that offensive line? Because Kirk Cousins was playing behind the third-string JV team in middle school.
Exactly. I mean, the offensive line is a little in Washington, but guys can make shit happen. Like you guys said, running backs can open up some lanes for.
I also just run really angry. If you look at any film of him, I know people say this all the time, but the way he runs really reminds me of Marshawn Lynch, where he just wants to drive people into the ground.
Yeah, I think he's a big help for Alex Smith. Alex Smith is going to have to sit there and make those 20, 25-yard bombs for a touchdown. He's going to be able to sit there and say, oh, I've got a little 4-yard dink that I can throw over to, Doxson or Chris Thompson or whoever, or Geis if he wants to. It's going to be a world possibility. I still do not like Alex Smith, but he'll be a solid quarterback too with Geis in the backfield this year.
If the Redskins were fucking smart, they would have Geis and Thompson on every play, like in the backfield. They would have two backs. They would have Geis and
split them out wide.
But they're not. Yeah, you're right. They're not, and that's not really what. I understand coaches like Gruden get into their zone of like their coaching scheme, and that's what got him to where he is. So I'm not going to sit here and say, but at some point, like play to your personnel, coach to your personnel.
Geis and Thompson out wide too.
Yeah, you put him he comes from the backfield, put him in motion. Now he's in a slot. That's scary for any linebacker right there. I like Darius Geis. I'm with you, Mile. I'm with you guys. I like Darius Geis a lot. Bobby, to your credit, he runs freaking angry. Like he's a punishing bruiser running back. The downside is that like he's not going to get into the secondary with that fucking offensive line. So he's not going to create a whole lot more running. Now, granted, I think he's the best running back on the team by far.
Yeah,
in terms of power running back. But he's going to be losing some snaps to Chris Thompson. Well, not a big deal.
The other thing is Thompson also gets injured every year. As much as I don't want to say that because I have Thompson on a lot of teams, Thompson just can't seem to find a way to play a full season.
Look, the one thing that's gonna have Geis is gonna have like a lot of snaps is if he doesn't know how to pass protect. If he doesn't know how to pass protect, he's not gonna be getting a lot of snaps. He's gonna have to be a very good blocking running back in the passing game.
This might lead into our next running back, but maybe he should have played for the Seahawks because they don't care about whether running backs can pass protect or not, apparently.
Yeah, so that's what I feel. I still don't think it's enough to put Alex Smith in my low end QB2. I tell you what though, I like Darius Geis a lot. I think long term, as soon as the Redskins get that offensive line fixed and healthy, I think they could actually have a very dangerous running game for the next 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, that seems very reasonable.
Speaking of the Seahawks, that's up next. We have Rashad Penny drafted by the Seahawks in the first round, which was what we thought was a little bit of a reach. But then again, I'm sitting here drinking. I'm sitting here drinking Four Roses bourbon on a Tuesday night at 8:22, doing a podcast that no one's listening, live podcast no one's listening to, and they're not going to listen to until Wednesday. So I'm not the expert. That being said, how is he going to help out my man Russell Wilson, the GOAT Russell Wilson?
Yeah, Mike, you can go first since I went first on Geis.
Sure. I don't think he is, to be honest. Russell Wilson doesn't need any help because Russell Wilson is the GOAT himself, like you said. But, Penny, I don't know. That was just such a fucking strange selection that the Seahawks didn't need to make. They could have taken Geis. They could have fucking went in a number of different ways. That offensive line is a joke. Their defense is not what it was. I know Pete Carroll wants to get back to, the ground and pound and the Legion of Boom, but I don't see how Rashad Penny is going to help him at all. He was an okay receiver out of the backfield. Nothing great by any means. He scored a couple touchdowns and had, 20 catches or something like that off the top of my head.
Yeah, 19.
19, thanks. But, yeah, he's a better runner than he is catcher out of the backfield. But even with that offensive line, I don't think people are going to be sitting there saying, oh, shit, we really need to, stop the run, because they know even if they do give it to Penny, the offensive line won't be able to block. So people can just sit back in the secondary and wait for him to get up into the second level and say, yep, now you're fucked, kid. So I don't think it helps Russell Wilson at all. I think that pick either A, should have been used on O-line help, or B, traded down. Sorry, Chase, but your Seahawks fucked up there.
Yeah, the other thing is Penny, and I know this is something that everyone has to work on the pros, but Penny graded out as a particularly bad pass blocker. So I can't even necessarily see him, at least early on, being in on third downs.
No.
They still have, even though he's injured all the time, they still have CJ Prozise.
And Carson.
Yeah, and Chris Carson. So I feel like one of those guys will probably be the third down back. And, Penny might help them out. I actually liked Penny before the draft spot, but looking at the draft spot, they have no O-line to speak of. Russell Wilson is going to vulture all the goal line touchdowns pretty much. They have no defense anymore, so they're going to have to pass all the time. I just don't really see, and I know a lot of people have Penny still ranked very highly, but I just don't necessarily see a path to at least year one relevance. Maybe year two when they finally realize they need to draft O-line, but we've been saying they need to draft O-line since they drafted Russell Wilson, and it hasn't happened. So I'm not holding my breath that O-line help is coming for the Seahawks anytime soon.
They basically stole the playbook for the Indianapolis Colts front office. Like, have a stud quarterback and don't protect him for 5 years. I mean, I don't know where the problem is there. That seems like a gold strategy if I'm in charge of a front office, right?
Yeah, definitely. The one thing I can say about the Giants, just to tie it back to Saquon for a second, is yes, they didn't draft a quarterback, but they did at least draft a very good lineman so that when they do get their quarterback of the future, he'll presumably be at least somewhat better protected.
True. Yeah.
The thing with Penny that's disturbing, Bob, you hit it. Like, he's not a very good pass blocker. And that wasn't their game at San Diego State. Now, the thing is, he's a pretty big guy. I didn't realize he's 5'11", 220. That's like prime blocking running back size that you want to have for somebody that's going to be your every down back. Like, you want to be that size so that he can block. And I don't think it's out of the realm that he can probably figure it out. He somehow didn't for 4 years at San Diego State. Again, it's not his game. But he's actually not a bad receiver. I know he only had 19 catches, but he had some pretty good numbers from the combine. Like, he was able to catch. He's got some pretty good speed. I think the way that he helps Russell Wilson, at least in year one, is not by blocking, but by just catching passes out of the backfield.
Yeah, it's possible. And the other thing I'd say about college running backs not having the biggest pass catching numbers is you sometimes have to take that with a grain of salt, because it's not always the coaching scheme that they use in college. And it's also just there's so many different ways that people get used in college, and then they get to the NFL and they get used differently.
It's perfect. Yeah, perfect example. San Diego State, they run that run pass option from the spread.
Another example is like Melvin Gordon wasn't thought of as a good pass catcher in college, and he's come out and basically made himself irrelevant because his rushing's not that great, but his pass catching has been pretty good for the Chargers.
I don't think Rashad Penny's going to have like Christian McCaffrey numbers in terms of like receptions. It wouldn't surprise me if we see 40 to 45 on his block at the end of the year.
Seems pretty high.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe 30 to 35.
Yeah, 40 to 45 might be high. 30 is probably more accurate, but still, Russell Wilson likes to spread that ball around. I mean, like, there's no like wide receiver run. I mean, I guess you could argue Doug Baldwin, but he likes to spread that. And to his credit, he does a good job of it.
Yeah, but then Russell Wilson will also just say, "Fuck you, Penny. I'm going to take this myself for 30 yards and a touchdown."
He could say that. He strikes me as a good guy, though, because he stayed with Sierra. So that's why I'm going.
Yeah, I think he's a good teammate type. I just think the reason that he's taken the ball in himself so much or rushed so much himself is plays have fallen apart, and he's pretty much had to.
100%. He had one game last year. He had more total yards than the team offense.
I know. I played against him that week in fantasy. It was real fun watching that.
He had like 472 yards of passing and rushing, and the team had 469 or something like that. It was insane.
Yep. I was pretty angry.
That's why he's
good. So Wilson's still QB1 regardless, right, guys?
Oh, absolutely.
Probably the greatest thing I've done on this podcast is convincing you both how great Russell Wilson is.
I know I didn't believe it, but like after our third episode, you convinced me.
Yeah.
I knew how great he was.
All right, let's move on. So next one we got is another goat, a goat from kind of got that bionic goat thing going on. That's Tom Brady. The Patriots draft Sony Michel? Sony? Like PlayStation?
Like a PlayStation, I think.
Sony Michel. Interestingly enough, you guys know Dion Lewis left, and he was a nice pass catcher and a nice option for Brady. So do we see kind of a similarity here? Dion Lewis kind of picking up those reins right there. Bobby, what do you think?
I have mixed feelings about it. I'm starting to come around because some very smart people have convinced me that Michel is not going to be the thing that I think he is, which is basically a scary running back by committee in the Patriots backfield. The one thing that does still scare me is he has fumbling issues.
Yes.
And if you have fumbling issues, you should not be coached by Bill Belichick.
He'll put you down. He'll put you on the sideline in a second.
For example, Kareem Hunt fumbled on his first play ever. If he did that, he never would have broken out with Bill Belichick.
Absolutely not.
But the thing with Michel is they did invest a first-round pick, and Belichick is one of those guys who often says like, oh, draft capital doesn't matter that much. But I do think that he's smart enough that he wouldn't use a first-round pick on a running back unless he planned to give him a lot of run and get him in the passing game. And as you said yourself, Dion Lewis actually rushed a lot on first downs and was involved in the passing game. So I see him almost as like Dion Lewis plus. He's going to eat a little bit of the work that Lewis left. He's going to eat into Gillislee's work, and Jeremy Hill is now irrelevant. Really, I think he is the running back to own with the Patriots. And I know people have been scared off by the fact that Bill seems to use a different one every week, but I think this is finally someone you can invest in confidently. And I think it will help Brady. Brady just doesn't age, and I think this will just help him. So basically what will happen is Brady will go to Sony Michel and like suck the youth out of him somehow.
He'll immediately turn him from like a complete like clean-shaven rookie into somebody with a long
he'll be a grizzled veteran with like a scar under his eye.
Real quick, Dion Lewis's numbers last year in New England: 896 yards rushing and 32 catches for 214 yards. So those are numbers that's to slouch at right there. He actually caught 32 out of 35 targets. That's a pretty good.
Yeah, Dion Lewis is an insanely good pass catcher. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Michelle broke those numbers in New England this year as a rookie.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've now convinced myself on this podcast that I'm bought into Michelle.
Lay it on us, Mike. Sony Michelle, what do you think?
Yeah, if anything, I think the biggest way that he's going to help Tom is he's going to take some of the load off Brady. Lewis was great for the Patriots, and, you had Burkhead back there as well, too. But, I mean, no Patriots running back really was like, oh, fuck, this guy's going to dominate. You go into a game thinking, oh, they're going to have a pretty good game, but, not dominate. And Bobby brought up a very good point. Bill Belichick isn't going to use a first-round pick on a skill guy like a running back unless he's got big plans for him. So I think we might actually see Brady transition a little bit into what Breeze had last year, where he relies on the running backs a little bit more. Now, I know you might say, how's that going to help? I think it's actually going to prolong Brady into a cyborg even longer. So instead of having maybe only 2 years left, I think you'll get, another year or you'll get maybe 3, maybe even 4 years out of Brady still, because he's got somebody in the backfield who can take some of that load off, catch some balls instead of having to sit there and hit Gronk or, the now departed Brandon Cooks, 30 yards down the field. He can sit there. He can get that little, probably a little Y option, a little screen pass out left or right, however you want to line him up, and get 10, 15 yards on the screen, and then all of a sudden he's 5 yards from the goal, bam, into Gronk for the touchdown.
In terms of game speed, I'm not talking like combine speed, I'm talking game speed. I don't remember the Patriots really having a running back that was like this explosive as Sony Michel. Like, I really don't. Like, I remember watching that SEC championship game, and that freaking guy, like, just completely opened the game up against Auburn. I mean, it was something else. And the reason, I don't want to compare, like, a college defense to, like, an NFL defense, but that's the only sample that we have to kind of, like, see him while just during a game. Mike, I like where your head's at and saying that, hey, like, maybe Brady's pass attempts go down a little bit, but maybe he stays another 2 or 3 years. Because, let's probably play another 15 years at this point.
Probably. I don't know if you guys saw this, but supposedly Kurt Warner was really serious about trying to come back at 47.
I read that today.
And was like, oh, shit, I'm going to play till I'm 50.
I'm glad you brought up Kurt Warner. I remember his wife being super ugly for their first, like, Super Bowl. But then when he went to the Giants, she was like a complete dime when he was on the Giants. It was insane. I'm gonna have to find up the pictures. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Brenda Warner, she was atrocious, and then she had something done. I don't know what it was, but she became like an actual quarterback wife.
I have no comment.
Neither do I. I don't remember that.
You know what? I'm used to clearing rooms with my perception and my overall quips about what's happening around me. So let's move on to, we have Case Keenum get some help with, who's this? Freeman? This is
Royce Freeman.
Royce Freeman. Thank you, Bobby. Over in Denver. So lay us some Royce Freeman knowledge.
I think Royce Freeman can be an all-purpose back, meaning he can rush on first and second down. He can catch passes out of the backfield. I think they'll probably still have Devontae Booker catch. That's the right name, right?
Devontae Booker.
Devontae Booker catch passes on third down, at least initially. But I do think this helps Keenum. I think I said this last week, but Keenum was one of my big winners of the draft because they didn't draft any quarterback really behind him. So it's really just Paxton Lynch and Chad Kelly. And they drafted a bunch of help for him. So Keenum's stock is decently up. And Royce Freeman is someone who, again, is going to help open up passing lanes. I think he'll do very well for the Broncos, although I think their O-line is still not great. I might be making that up. But
it's okay.
I like Royce Freeman a lot, and I really like the landing spot. So I think this does nothing but help Case.
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with that. I was a big CJ Anderson truther last year. I still am. I really like CJ, but the game script is what killed CJ Anderson last year because the quarterbacks in Denver were fucking atrocious, so they had to try to throw 50 times a game to play catch up. But this will help Keenan a little. Case Keenan. I can't say his name right now.
That's okay. You're on brand, buddy.
It's another name that we're butchering. It'll help Case a little bit. Freeman was a pretty good runner out of the Pac-12 last year for the Oregon Ducks. I do think he's probably better than what CJ was. And so that will give Keenum some more opportunities to stand around the goal line. And Keenum can run a little bit. So maybe we see, the odd quarterback sneak here or there, get those elusive 6-point touchdowns for the quarterback. And realistically, it'll just help. As anybody who's listening to this podcast knows, I'm not big on Manny Sanders or DT, but this should help them, should help Keenan a little bit, just by the fact that it's got a legit weapon in the backfield for the first time that Denver hasn't really had somebody really, really good back there. And, I can't remember the last good Broncos running back.
Terrell Davis, probably, right? No, Mike Anderson had a couple good years.
To Anderson's defense, you always seem to find a way to at least get like 1,000 yards a season. Maybe I'm just making that up, but I feel like he had like very quiet 1,000 yard seasons.
Yes, because fantasy Twitter hated CJ Anderson, and so nobody gave him any credit. He was actually pretty good. It's just game script killed him last year.
Yeah, last year he wasn't as good, but yeah, I agree. He is underrated, and I also might just be defending him because he's a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan, and I grew up playing a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog. So,
who didn't?
That's why CJ Anderson and I have a special bond.
Case Keenum was a QB1 last year. Is that correct? Was he QB1 or was he borderline QB2?
I believe he finished.
He was on the fringe. He was right on the fringe.
I believe he finished QB 15, 16, something like that. And he also didn't start every game.
No, he didn't start every game, and he had fucking Latavius Murray as his running back, as his running game. If you give him somebody like a Royce Freeman and Devontae Booker that can really split the carries and split the load right there, I think Case Keenum, you can make the argument is a QB1. I really do. This is a really good move by Denver. Bobby, to your credit, like Case Keenum owners, giant winners on the draft because they are all in on him. They've invested all of him.
That's why I traded around him for him in our league with you.
Humble brag, huh? There you go. There you go. Well, I'm also trying to win now, obviously, with the moves I made.
Yeah, in our league, just to clarify, in the Wreck Bobby League, it seems to change its name. Either it's like Bobby gets wrecked, Wreck Bobby, some version.
Something in which you're getting wrecked is accurate.
Yeah, but I traded Sam. It's a super flex league. I traded him Drew Brees for Case Keenum in a 2019 first. And I feel very good about that trade at the moment. But Drew Brees still has some stuff left in the tank, so I think it's a good move for both sides.
Yeah, I'm clear. When we have, and to be fair, we have different objectives. Like you have a little bit more in terms of like sustained success, and I'm obviously like in win now mode.
Yeah, normally I go for it, but I took a look at my team and I went, you know what? I want to compete next year.
So my final thoughts. I think Case Keenum is with this move, with Freeman going there. I think he automatically becomes somebody that if you own him, I would not even think about trading him at this point. I think the perceived value versus actual value does not match up at all. If you're a Case Keenum owner, hold on to him. Don't move him like I did. And you'll be great. Because I really think he's a fringe QB1 at this point.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I do agree with holding him because I do agree the perceived value of Case Keenum is not going to match up with what I think his actual production is going to be this season.
I agree with that. I don't think he'll be a QB1 just because there's so many fucking talented quarterbacks in the league. But I think he'll be a solid QB2, probably right in that 14 to 16 range.
All right, good stuff, guys. And if you do want to hear our actual QB1s, QB2 projections that we had, we did an episode about 4 weeks ago. I believe it's episode 5 that we have from season 2. Great stuff. We're going to wrap up because we're running out of time. So we're going to have to talk some Afterburners. Who wants to start with the Afterburners? I actually couldn't think of one at all. As I was actually venturing out today. I was doing some stuff, and something happened to me in which I was like, okay, this motherfucker's getting afterburned.
Mike, start.
Yeah, I'll start. I also had a hard time today thinking about an afterburn until it was about 4 o'clock, give or take. And I was on Twitter, and I see somebody post something. I'm like, oh no, that's got to be made up. There's no way that happened. And then I looked again, and I kept seeing more and more tweets about it. I thought, you son of a bitch, Mark Ingram, what the fuck are you doing, Mark Ingram?
Oh yeah, suspension, right? 4 games.
Popped with a 4-game PED suspension. Now, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know how you got popped. I don't know. There's reports coming out now that there's more to the story and that he's unhappy and he's not around the facility and he's not going to show up to the preseason and he wants out. What the fuck are you doing, Mark Ingram? If you wanted out, getting popped with a 4-game suspension is doing nothing to help your trade value at all. Yes,
He's
you're a US
man.
He is, but teams are going to look at that and be like, "Well, fuck this guy. He's a risk." He's popped with a 4-game suspension. Now you're putting all the load on Kamara and maybe one of those late round running backs, Boston Scott. It's great for Drew Brees because he's going to have to throw the ball more now this year. But Jesus Christ, Mark Ingram, the Saints were on the verge of something great. You had to go and be a fucking moron and get popped for PEDs. I have no tolerance for people who cheat in sports. I mean, well, depending on the cheating.
Wait, that was the quickest walk back I think I've ever seen.
Your mind.
Let me rephrase that. I have no tolerance for performance-enhancing drugs in sports.
All right, well, good save there.
If say you're playing hockey and you're a centerman, you don't have your feet quite set. Sure, fucking cheat on the face-off, whatever. But anybody taking performance-enhancing drugs, fuck you, Mark Ingram. I was a big fan of you last year and the years before. Fuck you, Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram getting burned by the Saints fan on the Afterburners podcast. Bobby, you got yourself a burn for someone?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to have to go back to the soup thing because I can't think of anything else. So,
by the way, this is at Bales S. Justin on Twitter.
At Bales S.
Great
Justin.
follow.
I was talking to him earlier today, and he was eating soup, and it's like 70-something degrees out. And we had this whole back and forth, and it's mostly a joke, but honestly, when you think about it, when it's hot out and you're sweating, are you really craving a soup? And Justin's whole thing was, oh, well, soup is the same temperature as other food. What kind of soup are you eating, Justin? Soup is steamy and it is hot. If you're having like chicken noodle soup, the whole point is that it clears your congestion. And then a bunch of other people chimed in. There's another Justin and like Jono, because I put out a poll, and the poll is basically this. If you're eating soup in hot weather, is that A, great, or B, you're a psychopath? And what I've learned today is that I associate with a bunch of fucking psychopaths. Because if you like soup in hot weather, you're a psycho. And then a bunch of people tried to say, oh, well, do you eat ice cream in cold weather? And you know what? I don't, and I don't have as much of an issue with it. It's specifically soup. But at the same time, when I think about it, I'm not like outside freezing and think, you know what I really want right now? Some ice cream. So yes, weather should absolutely dictate what kind of food you want. I'm not saying you can't have hot food in the summer because grilled food is great, but don't eat soup. That's just weird, man. And that is my burn of the week.
It's like when it's like 60 degrees outside, if it's north of 60 degrees, I usually go for the iced coffee. If it's south of 60 degrees, it's
Walton
usually
in our
coffee.
chat was giving me a hard time about saying that you should be drinking iced coffee when it's hot out. And I stand by it. You should not want like a sizzling hot cup of coffee if you're sweating balls.
If it's 78 degrees out, I'm definitely going to have iced coffee.
Yeah, I mean, I drink ice year round, so I'm kind of counter my own point.
You're just listening to Big Iced Coffee.
Yeah. That's the whole problem here. Big Soup puts out all this propaganda, and someone linked me an article about like soup you can eat in the summer. Big Soup, I'm on to you. No soup for you.
Fucking love the Seinfeld right there, by the way. Fucking Campbell's and Big Soup, always telling us how to eat our soup. Fuck you, Campbell's. We got you. All right, I'll clean up here on the final burn. So I found my perfect relationship. It's with a female that's going back to Houston on Thursday, and so we've spent some time together these last night and today. And today I was out in the High Line in New York, and as I was walking there, I'm making some moves, obviously, and we're going to kiss and make out a little bit. And this guy's walking his stupid fucking showcase poodle dog, and it gets in between us. And like as I'm like standing there, and the dog is just sniffing us, and finally like starts to pee. It wasn't on me and it wasn't on her, but it was close enough. So I looked over at him, and it's not like this old dude that doesn't give a fuck. It's like a dude that's probably younger than me. And my entire process was like, you see what I'm doing here, right? Like I just went from 12 to 6 because your fucking dog can't handle it, and it's right in between the two of us here. Really completely ruined the mood with me and this my new girlfriend, my new amazing girlfriend that's leaving in 2 days. And dude, with the fucking number one, you got a fucking poodle. I mean, come on, showcase poodle. You're like 25 years old, dude. What are you doing with a poodle? And two, like, way to ruin my game completely. I mean, it didn't ruin it, but like, still, the vibe was like messed up. So that's my afterburn. I know this guy's probably listening to this amazing podcast right now, but fuck you, poodle guy.
Yeah, don't let your dog pee in the middle of, I guess, a moment.
Yeah, it was a moment. So.
As a dog owner, I can definitively say I've never let my dog pee in the middle of a moment.
Thank you.
I was a dog owner for like probably 3 hours on Saturday morning.
What are you doing? One of those dog apps where you take?
Yeah, Mike found a lost dog.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Hey, did you find the owner of that, by the way?
So I did. So here's a real quick story. I know we're running out of time. So my wife and I were going out to go yard sailing on Saturday morning, and we're driving, and all of a sudden she sees this dog walking down the street. And there's, I know some people are savages and let their dogs walk without a leash, but we're looking around. We don't see anybody like in the vicinity. So we're like, oh shit, like we think this dog is lost. So we go over, and it comes up to us, and it's got a tag with a phone number on it. So I try calling the phone number, and it rings a couple times, and it goes to voicemail. It's not one of those voicemails that says, "Hi, this is John Smith." It's a fucking automated voicemail that just says, "You've reached blah, 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 blah. We're not here right now." So it's like, fuck, how are we going to track this down, right? So I keep calling it. All of a sudden, my wife gets the idea. She's like, well, maybe this is a landline, and we can use it to like reverse look up the number. So we reverse look up the number on Google, and we get an address. So keep in mind, we're in Kitchener. So we look up the address. This address is all the way fucking North Waterloo. So in perspective, to drive there, it took us about 25 minutes to drive there.
Damn.
Wow, that dog must have walked really far.
Yeah. And so we show up, and we're ringing the doorbell. It's probably like a good 2-3 minutes, and nobody's answering. I'm like, fuck, I don't think anybody's home. All of a sudden, this not old lady, but I would say she was probably mid-60s, comes to the door, and we sit there like, hi, are you missing a dog? And she goes, well, no. We're like, oh. And then she's like, well, wait, what does the dog look like? And so we like, well, come here, come to our car. And so she comes to the car. She's like, oh, that's my daughter's dog. So the daughter lives closer to us. She probably lives like maybe a 5 to 10 minute drive away from us. So it must have gotten out in that fucking windstorm or whatever, but was registered to the mother's phone number and address. So we found the owner eventually. So yeah, I was a dog owner for about 3 hours on Saturday morning, and yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna be a dog owner of, because it was enough for me.
At least there's a happy ending to that story.
Yeah, I'm glad you found it. I'm also going to nominate you for some type of award.
Yeah, I'm not a total douchebag, just a half douchebag. So
I mean, come on. I would say like 75% douchebag.
66%.
Fair enough. We'll split the difference, guys. What a great episode. Really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you, everyone listening. But we're out of time, so we're going to close it. We're going to call it a day. Mike, sign us off with your info. Bobby, follow up, and then we're going to call it.
You can find me on Twitter at Mike Jarvis, all one word. Hit me up on Insta, Mike Jarvis, YNWA. Over to you, Bobby.
You can find me at Rekt Fantasy on Twitter. That's REKED Fantasy. You can find my work on DLF football as well as 2 quarterbacks. I'm a draft day consultant, and just for this episode only, my Instagram is ROBBKOCH. Use hashtag ByeByeBly, that's BLEI, to find pictures of my wedding after this Saturday.
I'm going to make that hashtag on Twitter as well. I'm going to post a lot of shit and content on Twitter on Saturday. I might do a running documentary of it. If you mind, I'm going to do a live commentary, guys. I am at the Needy One. Don't forget, you can find us at Afterburners Pod. We're on Podbean, Stitcher, and iTunes. Please, if you're on iTunes, rate us, review us, subscribe. Get all those episodes directly to you when they come out fresh out the kitchen, just like some R. Kelly Ignition remix. Finally,
Yes.
if you have any questions, send it to the afterburnerspod@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your week, and make sure to hit up Bobby and say congratulations on Saturday.
Keep it classy, Fantasy Twitter. See you next week when I'm a married man.